Okay, I have 6:30. We'll actually start on time today. So we'll call the work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia for Monday, June 22nd, 2020 to order. So first we'll go through the regular business meeting. I don't have anyone for the invocation. Does anyone want to do that? Kelly, would you want to do that?
I would be happy to, and I'll leave right after that if that's okay.
That's fine.
I wasn't planning on staying.
Okay. Let's see, we got the minutes. Let's go to the public hearing.
How did the patch go?
Oh, okay.
You did it last time.
And she offered to do it this time.
Maybe Dave wants to do it.
No, she can do it. I just want to make sure she doesn't. Todd might want to do it.
Well, since we all say it together, I think it's okay.
We're used to leading the pledge in schools.
Under the public hearing, we have the second reading for RZ 20-01, which is the Aziri property on 78. Does anybody have any issues to go over with Jason before the meeting?
I just wanted to basically put the approved landscape plan on your, in front of you there that was adjudicated on Thursday. Chuck was there, he was fine, and that plan has been bonded, performance bond. And regardless of the rezoning, that takes care of the trees that are missing down in full, and they'll be planted sometime now September.
Anybody have any other questions or any issues to bring up at the work session? Okay, then we have the second reading, which is the SUP for the in-town suites. Any questions or anything to go over before the meeting?
Chuck, we're at 6 on the... That's it.
We do have, under new business, we have all the reappointments, items A through D. Would anyone have an objection to moving that to the consent agenda? So we don't have to do them all?
That's fine.
Melvin might.
No,
Well, we're not,
he's E and F.
we won't move his,
Okay.
because his is not a reappointment.
Okay.
His is a first appointment.
Because if he gets...
Reminder for post 6 on both of these.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if everybody's okay with that, whoever makes the motion to approve the agenda, then we'll move new business items A through D to the consent agenda. And then we'll still do items E and F, which is appointing Melvin to the URA and the DAS. So we'll leave those where they are. And then we have two first readings, both concerning alcohol. The first is to the town center alcohol plan. Eric had floated around a map with that, and he hasn't received any other comments back. Anything else you want to talk about? This is just the first reading. And then we have the alcohol at, that sounded like thunder, at Briscoe Park for the sports things. Then we have consideration and action on approval of the design and construction contract with Root Design.
I
Chuck
just
sent,
handed that out to everyone. This is Michael Kidd's contract with the numbers included. It's an not to exceed $85,000 contract, and it is for the additional city improvements in the Grove area. It starts on the walkway from Flower into the Grove, includes the intersection, and then the sidewalk in front of the library, portion of the sidewalk, in promenade, if you will, in front of the library and the market, the stage, the water feature, and whatever is in addition to the approved negotiated basic plan that CASTA will do. It's $85,000. It is from pre-design through construction, and I think everybody knows Michael and likes his philosophy and likes what he's done for us before. And as far as the staff is concerned, we would highly recommend approval of the agreement.
Any other questions? All right. Then that, we have one other item to add to the agenda. So we'll be adding item J, which is, we need, the developers have asked for another extension on the design,
For the design review
for the
period.
design review period to August the 25th. It doesn't cause us any problems because we're still waiting on the post office, so them having additional time is fine. So we will be adding, or when we amend the agenda, we need to add approval of the Fourth Amendment to the Master Development Agreement. And it will be item J.
Mayor, just for information purposes, the DDA board is also a signer on that. They considered it at their meeting last Wednesday and approved signing it.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on the regular meeting? Then we will go back to the work session agenda. Any correspondence, Butch?
No, ma'am.
Any city attorney's report?
No, we're good.
Ongoing projects, Butch?
The list keeps getting shorter because the town center update, which you received on Thursday, keeps getting longer. If you have any questions about the update, that kind of takes care of the first topic there. We're addressing the extension of the design review period. We're addressing Michael Kidd's contract tonight. I know that Chuck and Tony have been in touch with the Midcast attorneys working on the joint development agreement, the market agreement. We're going to get a red-lined agreement on the market development agreement this week from CASTA, and they're also working on the master declaration. So things are moving along. We also provided keys to the contractor at the old SunTrust building today. And all I can, Eric, all I can tell Eric is we're gonna push them just like we pushed them from day one. You know, we're getting closer, but we still we'd like to be done early.
Do we have an idea when they'll be there to start work?
Did you say maybe tomorrow?
They hope to start demolition within the week or two, and their schedule currently has them finishing prior to the busy season, he said, and I said, what does that mean? He said, prior to November 15th. So we'd like them to finish a little earlier, but if they're going to start the demolition prior to pre-construction, do the pre-construction meeting, and hopefully keep right on going. And we do have arrangements made with Walt EMC to move the transformer over there, and then we're going to work with them to also move the electric meter for gas machine.
Cats are scared. I don't want to touch the metal chair leg.
We also, the contractor is Morley Construction out of Alpharetta, a good contractor, worked with the post office for 20, 25 years. I think we'll have a good relationship.
Were they given the combination or key or whatever for the safe, so we're not gonna have to send chief over there to pry him out of the,
It's open.
well, yeah, I know yeah, it's open, but I'm not worried about when it's open.
There's an envelope on the safe door that has all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know if they know if they're gonna move it yet or not. But, so, mostly good news there. The positions, they're still, we just need to see what happens with the budget. I mean, we'll just look monthly, see how we're doing. Hopefully, we can do more for our employees, and hopefully, we can look down the road a little bit with some positive numbers, or more positive numbers than we projected. The census planning, we're at 72%. We haven't grown a lot lately, but the Census Bureau is just now kind of getting back in the saddle and pushing things. We're still ahead of Gwinnett. Gwinnett's at 65% county as a whole, and the state is down around 61%. The UDO, there's been a lot of discussion between Jason and Chuck, and we believe we can hold a virtual open house. And all we need is a date from you guys on what's good for you. Jason, you want to kind of bring them up to date on your discussion there?
I was talking to Chuck too, and we thought that we could even just have basically Caleb give his presentation on video or whatnot, and then we could use that to distribute to our UDO website or Facebook, and allow the questions and answers to flow through there, where we don't even necessarily have to all meet virtually, which is usually kind of messy with questions coming in, and you can't really give them the time, and they may not have time to actually absorb it. So we were gonna see if Caleb was open to that, to kind of just do something recorded, then have the PowerPoint presentation, the draft document. And we actually have a website dedicated just to that, where we could Q&A or call, or however they wanted to do it, instead of trying to get people to come online and actually ask questions. I saw that on the school board meeting, and it was kind of messy too. So it's up to you guys if you want to actually hold a Zoom or go to, we could do that, but I think the end product is, they're gonna get to see the same presentation. If they can just do it whenever they want, instead of having to meet at a certain time, they can ask us questions, they'll have, access to you guys.
Can we set that up so they input their questions and then they can all be addressed?
Sure.
So we have some way.
We can leave a log.
So everybody has a record of what the question was and what the response was, rather than doling those out individually.
Yeah, what we would do is just kind of mainly have every question that was received, we would put it in, I guess, the Q&A section of the website, and then if it's something that was a little more political, we kind of get feedback from everybody, or see this technical code, we could answer it, and then we'll just put all the answers up as they come in. And then, of course, with planning commission and the public hearings, we have to have those live. So that would still give them an opportunity to come in and ask more questions, make sure they understand. It would be a pretty good period of time that we would leave it out there for review, at least 30 days, trying to get it adopted in September by you guys, if everything lines.
And we've kind of moved in this direction, because when we were looking for space big, I was thinking just maybe 40 or 50 people. Give them room to social distance. We called the Methodist Church. Gretchen, very nicely, a member over there, tried to, pave the way for us. In their big hall, where we've had those town hall meetings, their internal committee said, we only think you could put 25 people in there if you're going to social distance. So, we'd be looking at going over to South Gwinnett to the stadium to put, so that's why we started the conversation with the attorneys to do it virtually.
If we can do that, like on GoToMeeting, Caleb can actually go through the whole presentation with the PowerPoint. It's all recorded, and I think that's we'll get better feedback.
Skip the the actual meeting if you want to, too. You guys have already seen the roll.
Right, but that allows him to record it really easily. It's his voice and then the PowerPoint.
Yeah, or he could just record it and voice over it, or have somebody record it for him.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you guys all want to do it on a go-to and then allow that for the purpose. I'm cool with whatever.
No, I think having a video like that, I think we'll actually get more participation because people can watch it
That's what I was thinking, just let him record the
at their
video,
convenience.
and we can bounce information back and forth more quickly. And there's going to be some map changes too, because the zoning ordinance is changing the names of some things. So actually going to kind of get to digest everything at once on their time, and then give calibrated questions, and they're not going to be the same 6 questions we always hear. I think we'll get actually better discussion out of it. Honestly, everybody knows people don't get real excited about zoning ordinance.
Yeah. Great.
So that's kind of where we are. We'll drill down and come up with the best time. On code enforcement, commercial property annexation, obviously we know the date that we can start working on annexation again, but 2001 Maine comes up. They did have their day in court. I think the judge handled it very well. Chuck did a good job in his presentation. And Chuck, where did we end up?
So we requested a fine in the amount of $27,000, which was essentially $900 for each ticket. Technically, I think there were more trees that weren't cut, with multiple trees, but that was certainly indicative of what was going on. Judge Terry did a very good job. She listened to both sides. Mr. Ziri got up and spoke on behalf, actually, of his wife, and she was the one that received the ticket. They had brought in the money that they had spent for the replanting plan, for the bonding, because they did already, as Jason said, they did already pay for the trees that are going to be planted, they paid for the bond. And based on that, she set the fine amount of $15,000. So, I think that was a fair outcome. I didn't try to appeal her decision. I thought that was appropriate, and left it be at that.
And they're gonna wait till the fall to plant?
There was only the arborist, I think it was our arborist.
Yeah, our arborist, of course. It's too hot now, and the nurseries actually aren't building right now, so they're just going to build.
But we have receipts that they've already paid for in full for the trees to be purchased, to be transported, and then they hired a company, those Hughes, called the Bond Girls, and they the home bond, performance bond for it.
Okay.
The last item, there are just a couple of ordinances on here that Chuck and Tony have been working on, the alcohol-related first readings. But that does cross off a town center update item that Casto has been concerned about for a long time. Well, they haven't been concerned, but they've had it on the agenda. So we're going to take care of that with a first and a second reading for determining the open alcohol in the new town center. So, and there's always, I think there are a couple of items on the work session that may lead to ordinance discussion. But we can always discuss that. That's all I've got tonight.
Okay. Next, we have item B, discussion about Great Little Mines Book Exchange Agreement.
We have a guest with us, Alicia Young, who is here to discuss a reading program, not necessarily an early reading program, but an accelerated reading program that she is responsible for putting together. I had the good fortune to discuss the program for about 15 or 20 minutes, and I wanted her to bring that to you guys. And Alicia, I'll just turn it over to you, and you can kind of go over your program.
Okay, thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Young, and I'm with the Gwinnett Coalition for Health and Human Services. I'm their project coordinator over there. For those of you who don't know what that nonprofit is, we usually do Gwinnett Great Days of Service, and we host the Gwinnett Helpline and the Gwinnett County Veterans Resource Center. So a new project that we started recently is Great Little Minds, and what it is, it's a early learning campaign for Gwinnett County, because Gwinnett County Public Schools released the data that 52% of their students who start kindergarten are actually not ready for kindergarten. And then of that 52, 48% of those students are the ones that do not graduate or drop out of high school. So with that being said, other research that we found shows that children react better and they learn faster when they're introduced to language really early, even from babies. If you just show them images, there's been brain stimulation and cognitive development. So what Great Little Minds is trying to do is that we're trying to put little book exchanges, which a book exchange is kind of like a little library. So if you've seen the little libraries around the county, our book exchanges are different because we only have books for children 0 to 8 years old. And we have stewards that visit our book exchanges twice a month to refill them, maybe more if it's a high traffic area, they'll visit more to refill them with books. And what I'm trying to do is I have 150 book exchanges, and I'm trying to put them all over Gwinnett County, mostly south of 120 because that's where data shows needs the most help, and also and a lot of our county parks. So I've got approved. I just got approved for 20 county parks, so they're gonna be up soon. And then I'm working on the city parks. That's why I'm here now. So I spoke to Butch, and I wanted to propose having one in Briscoe Park and the Oak Grove Park, and maybe on the lawn, but I don't know if that'll be appropriate or not because it's really short. It sits 36 inches out of the ground, and they're decorated. They're really beautiful. The public schools and local artists came together and they painted it and they decorated it, so it doesn't look. It's really eye-catching when you see it, and every kid that sees it's gonna want to go up and look at it and be like, "What's this?" And they're gonna want to open it, take the book out. So with the book exchanges, we anticipate that when the kids take the book, they're gonna want to keep them. So that's why we've partnered with Books by the Pound, Goodwill. They donate books to us, and that's how we refill our library. So for the first 3 years, we already know that we're gonna have to refill them, and it's not gonna be a true book exchange until the area is like fully saturated with books.
Do you take donations of books from individuals?
Yes. I just had someone drop off 90 books on Friday.
And can you send us a picture of what these awesome little libraries look like?
Here. Definitely.
Oh, okay. Evidently we have it. Thank you.
And each of them are unique. They're all of them are different.
War and Peace would not be appropriate.
Yeah.
I would not have a copy of War and Peace, and you've met me, you've known me long enough to know that. So,
Well, does anyone have an issue with her putting one in Briscoe and Oak Grove?
no, I think the more we can get them out,
Or
the better
back
off.
City Hall parking lot would be another place.
Where was that?
City
Yeah,
Hall
if you
parking
wanted,
lot.
if you wanted to do one here at City Hall, we've got a free library over by the senior center,
Yeah.
right outside their door. But I think
I was telling her that we had the rolling
right,
little
Yeah.
free library here to move around. And,
sitting in the
these
hall.
are just a lower to the ground, more child scale. And,
Honestly, I think one out in front of City Hall would get more traffic than Oak Road Park.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true, but one on the green would get more traffic than either one, at least during events.
Or during events,
The only
but
thing I would ask that let us work with the location on the green, because
Yeah.
we really have to
Gonna
figure
put
out.
it right
where we
in the
can put
middle
it.
of the round thing in the center for the Christmas tree.
But we have a standard agreement that our attorney would look at, and I just wanted to get started. I wanted to get your support, and definitely Briscoe, and then a couple more, and we'll work with everybody on the location.
Absolutely.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
I just met with James Riker from Senior Duluth, and he's approved too as well, so. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next, we're having a discussion about drag racing and altered mufflers. Ms. Linsky?
Yes, this has become an issue in my neighborhood in the Hickory Hills area, and I asked Chief White and Assistant Chief Perry to weigh in on how prevalent it is throughout the city, and do we have adequate measures in place to address some of the problems in the interest of protecting our neighborhood. Plural.
We don't need any ordinances, state law covers all of that, which applies in our court, so these cases will already come to our court. They're for racing on highways, drag racing, laying drags, and then we also have an exhaust system, prevention of noise, smoke, and fumes. We've only had, in the last year, we've had 3 complaints of drag racing and 4 of loud mufflers for the whole year. We've had cases in 3 of them. One of them in her neighborhood. Obviously, the issue is, did we see it happen? Because for us to make a case, we have to see it. But in the last one, the officer used some initiative, went up, knocked on the door, and the guy confessed, so we wrote him 3 tickets. So it's, I mean, it's. If you're the one who's hearing it, it bothers you. I mean, there's no question about it. But it's not a prevalent thing. Working with the mufflers is a little bit more difficult, although there are some the sections that apply to it, because used to, of course, nobody's as old as I am, but when we used to cut the mufflers off, you had straight pipes, and that's what was the problem. Now they just take the baffles out of the inside of the muffler. You look at it, you can't really tell that they've altered it at all, but there are things that can be done based on the state laws that exist.
So noise ordinance?
It can
issues?
apply,
It can apply.
but if they're legal, then it doesn't actually.
Is there a DBA level specified?
No, and you know, any noise ordinance, basically, you have to have meters to do it, and because if it's outside, if there's less trees, if there's anything else, it really,
Yeah.
those numbers are relatively nebulous, and they're very difficult to prove in court too, so. But really, the issue is, even if it's a noise ordinance, any of the ordinances, any of the laws, we have them, it's just being able to catch the people who are doing it. We got the information on who that guy was, and so we finally just said, okay, we're not catching you, but we'll knock on your door. And being not the brightest light, this guy, he told us everything he did, so.
And he left the tracks
Yeah.
out through the driveway into the street. That
Well,
was
you
the
can
big
see it,
giveaway.
but he confessed to me, that you have to know who the driver is, you have to know the
Right.
vehicle, you have to be able to do that. Thanks to his cooperation, we were able to do that.
Good, okay. So there is nothing in addition to what we already have in place that we could be doing or should be doing or should be looking into?
You know, the laws exist, it's just, you know, again, people have to call when they're doing it, and we have to catch them doing it too, so. It's,
You know, I know we talked to some people in your neighborhood, and it's a good idea to actually try to take a video, not that the video can help us make the charts, but it helps us go in the right direction.
you know, that's certainly when you show it to them, that you, yeah, look at your sign.
And I do appreciate your intervention and communication with my neighbors as well. I wanted to go ahead and make sure that there wasn't anything else that I could do from a.
I mean, we have, there's enough laws to take care of it, it's just we have to catch them.
Right. All right, we'll work on it and continue.
Kathy, stay out of Hickory Hills.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's pretty crafty, you can't.
Yeah, Melissa, you better watch where you go.
Yeah, really, we have a couple of professional drivers in our
That's
midst.
why I drive.
Closed
a
course.
minivan.
Yeah, I'm sure you should probably find some way to make that switch over.
Okay, next item D, Citizens Advisory Committee. Christie, you had some.
Okay, nice to meet you. Threw together the little handout.
Thank you.
Check my new printer.
So just a little background on this too. Butch and I had talked, and then I had also gotten an email from a constituent about having just a sounding board kind of group to talk to about issues. Butch had put together some information, and I think that's some of what Christie's incorporated into here about, you know, what the role of some of these people might be. And then we're just trying to sort through what would be the best scenario of having a group like this. So you want to give your thoughts, Christie?
Sure. When we put together the Snellville Youth Commission back in 2016, we did so through an enabling resolution that created that particular commission. And within that, there was an adult advisory board. So the actual resolution that was written up by Tony and Chuck is what I used as the model to put this together, and I just substituted our rationale in the whereas section, explaining a little bit of the background and our beliefs and our philosophy of what we want to do in bringing this into the city, and the creation, purpose, and authority, as well as that was actually Butch's contribution, more so on page 1. And then if you flip it over to page 2, continue on with the membership, and that of course is, I mean, all of this is a draft. This is just based on some of the thoughts that were discussed from Butch and Barbara and Solange and I, that 15 members in the membership section nominated and confirmed by City Council proposal. Interviews, application process that we currently use is already in place, and little details there about the scope of the actual membership, the meetings, open meetings, subject to open meetings, that special meetings may be called, a couple of the highlights there. And as you go on through conflicts of interest in section 5, that's already into the city charter, just referencing that with section 2.14. Rules of procedure. The way that we had written it into Snellville Youth Commission was that is going to be the job of the council that's set up. City staff and resources. One of the things that is probably not going to apply to this particular advisory council is the budget. I know we wrote that in, probably Chuck wrote that into the youth commission. And that piece probably will just need to be deleted here. And I put the liaison officer as the city manager. And so, you know, that can be discussed, evaluated there. And of course, the mayor. So just, I know it's a lot to look at right now, so everybody just kind of look at it and discuss. And one of the things that we were talking about in some of the planning and discussion of this with the organizational piece last week was that the mayor would probably want to have some sort of a work session first before going to set up the mission and vision of the actual council and organizations through individuals who would be invited to that work session, and then going forward with the enabling resolution and then the official appointments to that particular organizational piece, the council. Does that kind of characterize what we discussed, hopefully? Yeah.
I'm still having a lot of reservation about this, so I just need to mull over it some more. My biggest concern is that we definitely need to have, you know, a way to have discussions and, you know, just some sounding board for help navigating through things. But I just have I don't want it to be political. I think if it winds up getting political, then we're not not doing anything. We're making our issues worse. We need to be able to have a way for people to have good discussion, and help figure out how to bring out those discussions further into the community. But if we wind up creating this political animal, we're gonna wind up making things worse rather than better. So, I think this is good work. We need to kind of think through, what we're doing and how we go about this. Other thoughts?
I think we need to do a deep investigation, because this thing can be tremendously helpful, and it can come back and bite you. It needs to be done the right way. Because
I worry a little bit now, because it's such a hot environment in this area right now.
Yeah, but that's why it's needed. Conversation is needed.
Yeah.
This is needed.
Yeah, but you need to be able to handle
You
the
need
conversation.
calm
Yeah, well.
voices too, not just
But are we
people
not
that
going,
are.
you're going to interview the people? I mean, we're going to sit with
Well,
them
yeah,
and-
but that in itself
on a
becomes a political
application.
process.
Yeah.
When you're talking about interviewing and applications and then appointments, now we're already introducing some political process in there. Because we're not gonna appoint everybody that may be interested or feel like they have value, and then we're gonna get, well, why did you pick that person and not me? And so just even in that part, and that's what, I agree. I mean, the conversations need to be held. I just don't want to set it up in a situation where we're starting off in kind of a political environment. Once it gets political and we start Democrat, Republican, or we start liberal or conservative, when we start those types of, when all of that gets in, we lose the ability to have that, open our minds, sit back and have a good discussion. So that's what.
That's with the mission. The
that's
mission
how we-
comes
well,
in, or your
yeah.
vision. You sit and you let them know the sun.
Doesn't matter.
Missions.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We've been down this road before, when it turned into people were denied, were not approved for a position, and because they weren't qualified. But then it was, oh, well, you didn't do this because, and there was some reason that had nothing to do with the reason they were turned down. I had one guy was all upset, and he wanted to be appointed to the city's representative to the CID. And I said, why do you want to be? Well, I want to start a group. So he wanted to use his position, being appointed by the city, for his own purposes. And then when he was turned down, it became an issue because of previous personnel.
So I'm not saying no, I'm not arguing against. I think we just need to.
It needs to be done right, so that it
Well,
works.
carefully vetting, and, you may want to look at that membership section 3 and add a few additional qualifications in there. Residency in Snellville, or owning a business in Snellville, or being a member of the clergy in a Snellville church, I think could help a little bit with that piece.
And one of the things that we run into is, more or less, we know what's going on, and we're our own little insular group. Some of us are very geographically located. I mean, 4 of us live within a half mile of each other. And there are areas of the city that we may not be hearing. It's not so much that we're not hearing their voices, we don't really know what their issues are. Like, I would have no idea that people are laying drag and hot rodding around in Christie's neighborhood. I drive through her neighborhood 4 times a year, just to make sure I get around the city. But it's important to geographically be able to draw some people in, and some neighborhoods that have never been represented. Trust me, I totally get the non-political stuff. I was kept off the planning commission for a year because there was a person who didn't like me. Can you believe that?
Who wouldn't like?
So I get both sides of it. I have grave concerns, but I also see that challenges are meant to be overcome.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
It's worth
And
having.
if we're gonna build community, we have to be
Gotta
able
do
to.
it.
You
It's gotta
cannot-
be a
yeah.
risk-taking.
And that's that, when I first brought it up, I'm just glad to hear the discussion and know that there's interest in moving forward. I think it's important in the times that we're living that people feel like, those people at the city listen,
That's right.
you know?
Right.
And I want to keep the discussion going. And I'll just tell you that in the past, when I've had an organization, it has been sort of, yes, I ran the membership by the mayor and council, but it's been a group that I, in Dalton, a city administrator, that actually had more authority than a city manager had, could get that group together, and the elected officials who were invited, it depended on the topic. We had committees. We had 3 elected official committees. We had, public works, public safety, community relations, city institutions, industrial relations. We had a lot of industry. And so whatever the topic was, I called the group together, I had an agenda, and that committee was there listening because it pertained to that group. They were responsible. Most of the time, those committees would make motions in seconds based on their committee assignments. And the other group, it worked very well. But I'm glad we're carrying on this discussion, and I hope we carry it on to fruition. Because I think we can do it and make it work.
That's a great idea. Maybe it's something that doesn't directly report to us or have anything to do with us, as much as we recommend this person or that person, and we shovel it off on him.
Well, I liked what you said too about it can be broader issues than just
Oh, yeah.
This is not,
social
we're-
justice.
This
I mean,
wouldn't be
yes,
just
yes,
this,
the-
right.
the racial equality issue brought this
That-
forward,
That may be one.
but there could be a zoning issue, there could be
Different types
a
of-
lot of things that come up that, this group can address,
Right.
can help us address in a more wider discussion, so.
I like the idea of it being a much broader group to,
Yeah.
Right.
when
And that's
there's issues
exactly,
that come up that we feel maybe we could use.
right,
some
that's
input.
the language that's used into
Mhm.
section 2 as well, when you get a chance to kind of go through it a little bit more. And the community relations piece is gonna be the primary function, even though the rationale of why we're creating it is a very different piece of that. That's into you'll see.
And if it works well, it becomes a bench that is the
Right.
farm league for our replacements, because none of us are gonna do this forever. And we shouldn't want to,
No.
we shouldn't be allowed to.
You get a lot of volunteers and a lot of interested people from that group. Identify a
And
lot
they're
of
stakeholders.
people that you didn't know
Right.
about.
Right.
The biggest part is that they're stakeholders in this community in terms of business, clergy, residency, something substantial that
and-
ties them here.
And the flip side of that is, through this process, you're able to vet those people
Right.
who are looking to eventually maybe become leaders in
Oh,
the
yeah.
city, and find out the ones that you
Aren't.
really probably don't want them to be.
Yeah. You can weed them out, you can.
Right.
And I
Well,
have
exactly.
to throw this in too, but you can always have a spot reserved for a youth commission member. So,
I think it's important that there's a
right.
large diversity in
Well, yeah.
ages.
Yeah. Male as well as
Ages,
female.
locations, diversity, in every sense of
Yeah,
that word.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I think it's gonna work. Let's just give it a chance, think about it, see.
We just need to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right, of course, of course.
Well, that's why I like it.
Or an outside,
On board.
a church might pick it up.
No, I
They're
want
not
somebody
theirs.
who I know has the knowledge and best interests of the
The
city.
city.
Right.
The,
But I don't think it would hurt to have clergy. a
no,
clergy
no, no,
person
no, I know, but I
involved.
don't want to have an advisory committee that is run by a group that may or may not have.
Well,
At that point, they wouldn't
Right.
necessarily be an advisory committee to
Right.
mayor and
No,
council.
not
They would
right.
be that group aiding a lot of the discussions that need to be had right
Right.
now.
Right.
Not necessarily, what Butch was talking about.
Yeah. And the city used to make every council member was there, a department was there, and some people just weren't as
Rotated.
good at being attentive while not being too hands-on, so.
Just sit like on the sidelines and just, so we can have a concept of what's going on. Just- Unless you're gonna fill us in, you know?
I think we carry this discussion forward.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okey-doke. And Christie, thank you for the work you did on that. Item E, discussion of possible 60-day extension of design review period with MidCast. We've already mentioned that needs to go on the agenda. Did we talk about it?
We did.
Okay,
You're not having it.
okay. I was like, oh my God, we did talk about that, right?
Myself.
We didn't talk about it, it was on the work session.
Yeah.
We talked about putting it on.
Yeah, so we talked about it during that. And the extension date that's in the amendment is August 25th.
It's a Tuesday.
Is that a problem?
No, I just printed, I have a new printer, so.
Y'all really believe that?
Okay, well, we've been advised that we do not need an executive session, so would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion
Second.
and a second? All right, everybody good?
Where I go, all the clocks are.
It's 7:17, so you got plenty of time.